Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. I'm your host, Sarah Jones. This is the first episode of this season that was recorded post-lockdown. When Los Angeles got put on lockdown, along with the rest of the country, I knew I wouldn't be able to travel to haunted locations for the rest of the season. To handle these COVID complications, I decided to research haunted places in the home state of each comic guest and recorded each episode as a phone call, much like the minisodes. It's not an ideal format, I know that, but it gave me an opportunity to still explore some stories of hauntings in places I may not have had the chance to visit for this season. It's what we had to work with, and we just rolled with it. For this episode, my comic guest was Sean Jordan. Originally from South Dakota, which he insists is the greatest state in the country, Sean spent his formative years in Portland, Oregon. There, Sean was voted Portland's funniest person in 2014, and in the next 2 years was named one of the comics to watch, both by Splitsider and Comedy Central. Sean then moved to Los Angeles, where he began performing in the top shows in the city while maintaining a non-stop touring schedule. You may know Sean from the wildly popular podcast All Fantasy Everything, where he is a regular co-host. He's also a regular guest and fan favorite on Doug Benson's podcast, Doug Loves Movies. I wanted to make sure to give Sean a good South Dakota legend that he may not have heard before. That's why I decided to tell him all about the legend of Sica Hollow. If you want, check out our Instagram at Lit Dark Podcast for photos that go along with this episode. For now, relax and enjoy the haunting legend of Sica Hollow.
Yo.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I'm good. Just in lockdown like everybody else.
Yeah, I feel you. Me too. Thankfully, I'm in Portland, and it's not bad.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it seems like you've been skateboarding and kind of just doing the stuff you like to do anyway. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's sick. I've been skating, and Laura and I have been gardening a bunch, like planted some raspberry bushes, or are they bushes? Whatever they are, vines.
Yeah, that's
I don't know what they
cool.
are. Yeah, it's sick. Haven't drank in a while, which is cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, me neither, actually. I've been sober since January.
Yeah, that's tight. Even before all this, you weren't even forced into it. Look at you.
Nope. Yeah. So this is my first episode in this format, doing it in lockdown.
Uh-huh.
Like, as you know, normally I go to the haunted place with the comedian and we kind of explore it. But I figured with this new format, I'm not bound to only do episodes on places that I'm physically able to visit or like have permission to be there. So I figured it'd be kind of cool to find a place in your home state.
Hell yeah. I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear about it. Where is it? Or I suppose you'll tell me. Huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll get to it. But actually, I wanted to mention that Thrillist said that South Dakota is the most haunted state in the entire country.
Really?
Does that strike you as something that's shocking, or do you feel like, yeah, that makes sense?
Well, it seems like they're haunted with a shitty governor, but other than that, I didn't really know. No, I mean, we used to go to the skate park all the time, just outside of Sioux Falls, and there was like a haunted, it was called Buffalo Ridge, and it was
Oh.
supposed to be like a haunted, I don't know, like an old settlement kind of thing. That was about the only thing I've ever really seen.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering if you had heard of it. So the one we're going to talk about is Sica Hollow, is how you pronounce it. Sica, but it's spelled S-I-C-A.
Okay.
So
Is it like a native word?
yeah, it is. So it's nearly 3 hours north of Sioux Falls. So I don't know if you would have ever been up there, but it's a pretty
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a reservation, I think Rosebud is up there. So, and it's just on like I-29, which goes north-south through South Dakota on the east side of the state. So I'm sure I've driven right past it a whole bunch of times.
Okay, yeah. So Sica Hollow is a forested ravine. It's found in the Prairie Coteau Hills. Do you know where that is?
I don't.
In northeastern South Dakota.
Okay.
So natives called these hills Pahatanka, which means the Great Hills. The area was actually carved by glaciers some 20,000 years ago when the area was covered with ice that was 3 miles thick, if you can imagine.
That's right. I can imagine that. South Dakota killing it.
Yeah. So for 8,000 years, shifting glaciers sculpted the landscape until the last glaciers retreated to leave South Dakota with its unusual natural beauty. People actually point to these specific hills as evidence of the Ice Age.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, isn't that what happened? Like the glaciers traveled down?
Yeah, that just I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so all of these hills, they're made up of just thick glacial deposits as a result of those glaciations. So what's left behind is a landscape rising from the plains that's been described as magical. It's a densely forested ravine carved into the side of the hills, blanketed with the forest floor plants. The hollow has many trees, tall maple trees and linden trees, a canopy weaving itself through the forest of oaks, ironwoods, elms, and many others. In fact, over 200 plant species have been identified in Sica Hollow. But it's more than the plants that makes this area particularly fascinating. This is my favorite. There's red-tinted water that rushes through the springs in Sica Hollow.
That's sick. So
Yeah.
like just the rivers and everything, they're kind of like of a red tint to them.
Yeah. So people suggest the water looks like blood, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
Hell yeah.
But the water is actually tinted red from iron deposits. So this is one of those places that the landscape is creepy and interesting, but I'm going into the scientific reasons for like why they look that way. All of those springs contribute to these quicksand-like bogs that should be carefully avoided in the area. If you go to visit, the trails have been marked and visible fencing should keep visitors on solid ground when they visit. But cattle has actually been lost to sinking in the quicksand in the past.
Yeah, those idiots. Dumb little cows.
They're not watching the signs. You're not only in danger of slowly sinking into the ground when you visit the hollow, though, there are also sudden cliffs that drop several hundred vertical feet to be wary of when you visit. It's definitely a place that you want to be alert and aware of your surroundings and mind the trail markers if you should choose to visit. So, Shisha Hollow was once used by the Dakota Sioux as their primary hunting grounds. The name Shisha means bad or evil and was given to the area by the Sioux natives. It's hidden away. Do you know? I wonder if you know where these places are. It's hidden away between Lake City and a ghost town called Hillhead.
No, I've never heard of Lake City or Hillhead. I try to be very knowledgeable of my state. So keep asking. Like
Yeah.
every place, ask me. I'll know one of them.
Okay. Well, I mean, either way, like I know you have so much love for your home state. This might just
Yeah,
be one
man.
of those legends you've never heard of before.
Well, and also I'll just go when I'm back. This
There you
gives me
go.
something to do when I get back. Hop in mom's whip, drive up about 3 hours, and get haunted.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll be able to look at all these like landmarks and be like, oh my God, I know all about this.
Well, I'll go to gas station and be like, let me take you to the Bloodwater.
Exactly. It's actually a state park now, Shisha Hollow, that you can visit and explore all the mysterious natural wonders, walk the many trails, and ponder the Sioux legends, and wonder why they would give such a sinister name to an otherwise beautiful place. The most popular trail. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying because we're evil. That's why.
There's a whole interesting legend, and I'll get into it. But the most popular trail is actually called the Trail of Spirits. And people say it's the most haunted trail. It's only 1.5 miles long. And you can actually see the blood red gurgling water for yourself. The Sioux actually believed the blood and flesh of their ancestors flowed in that water. So are you visualizing it? Are we there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a visual. I mean, it sounds so gnarly to think about.
It is. Yeah, it sounds like a really awesome place, which is why, like, God, I wish we could just go there and do the episode there, but, we're not allowed to leave our homes.
That'd be so funny. We're like, well, we just had to go to South Dakota, so we decided that we needed to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, This is like what I want to do though. Like I want to travel to all these different places and just check them out. But I could also see myself being like, yeah, there's quicksand, like there's a mile-long drop. So just kind of look out.
I think it sounds rad. Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound awesome. So long ago, this area was populated by Sioux natives, particularly a tribe that was known for their generosity to travelers. So, in this interesting, mysterious forest that we just described, if you can also picture teepees covered in buffalo hide, this is the legend of the place. So, one winter, a white man named Hand came over to the hollow. He had a broken bow and wore worn out moccasins, and he said he had no family, nowhere to go. So the tribe welcomed him in and allowed him to stay for the winter. However, people in the tribe got this uneasy feeling about the guy. They found him to be generally rude or antisocial. So some of the things he would do, he would eat a lot without being thankful, and they would kind of like, pray and do all these things that he didn't do. He didn't share stories the way the rest of them did, and several other things he did. He just generally gave people the creeps. So the elders agreed that they would allow Han to stay with the tribe through the winter, but when it started to get warm again, that they'd kind of push him out and kind of banish them from their peaceful hollow.
His name was Han?
Hand, like Hand, like your hand.
Oh, like foot and hand. All right, Hand.
Yeah, I have no idea why that's what they called him.
Well, I like it.
It's unique. During the time he stayed there, though, Hand starts talking to the young men in the tribe. And he gives them this idea that they could do so much better than follow the status quo. He challenged them to consider an alternative lifestyle where they could be feared and ferocious warriors and turn their backs on the old ways. And this is like otherwise just this peaceful tribe. These ideas rile up the young men, and they start thinking about how they're going to make themselves fearsome and just take what they want and make a new life for themselves. So it's kind of culty. Like, I'm kind of reminded of Charles Manson. This whole helter-skelter person comes up and gets all these followers to just want to be violent.
Yeah, you got to shake things up, that kind of shit. Sure. It's never a good way to be.
No, it sucks. So as winter turns to spring, travelers begin to visit the hollow like they so often did because of the tribe's warm and welcoming reputation. But these young men, riled up by Hand, started striking travelers with clubs while they slept in their camps. Soon the entire ground was red with blood, and the blood of the innocent ran into the rivers. According to the legend, this is why the water in the streams still runs red.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, everyone in the tribe is freaking out. They had this cool, zen, peaceful way of living, and this white guy comes and fucks everything up like they're known to do.
Yeah, why guys do that?
And now suddenly, their young men in this tribe are crazed killers. So everyone's pissed off at this point and scared, hoping things will go back to normal. So they go to their medicine man of the tribe. And this is a man, his name is, I wrote the pronunciation of all these names. His name is...
Yeah, you have to, otherwise there's no way to get it.
His name is Wichasha.
Okay.
Wichacha Wakan. So Wichasha, the medicine man, says, all right, I'm going to go to my own lodge, try to communicate with the Great Spirit, who they called Wakantanka. And he sat in his lodge and performed his rituals. He would use tools like a whistle and a rattle and would burn sweet grass, among other traditions. And there he waited for the Great Spirit to bring him a messenger named Thunderer. Meanwhile, Hand and his boys did not sleep. They lit a big fire in the middle of the camp, and they were bragging loudly to the women, telling them that they should have their children, so that their children would have this fearsome warrior blood within them and would make everyone tremble when they called out. They just kept killing, carrying on, drunk with power and the fear that they're spreading. But most of the camp just kept their trust in the holy man and continued to pray with him. There was undoubtedly this feeling that Hand had brought evil with him to their camp. Suddenly, the sounds of the medicine man's whistling and rattling from his lodge becomes still, and the hopeful tribe members turn their faces to the lodge. Through these smoke holes, they begin to make out the dark wings of this messenger called Thunderer, and they can see his eyes glowing in the night sky. His great dark wings beat the air and formed a huge black rain cloud that rained over the hollow. Hand, who's just this confident, leader, was suddenly struck by this fear and madness that took over him. Thunderer came down around Hand, his great wings closing in around him, beating so that he couldn't run away. And vines erupted from the ground and grew up, grabbing Hand by his ankles so he couldn't run.
God, bummer.
I know, it's brutal. It gets worse. So as water from this great rain cloud came beating down, Thunderer's talons swooped down and ripped Hand's eyes out from the sockets, while his screaming mouth is being filled with rainwater, just muffling his cries. So the legend goes that these torrential rains flooded the entire hollow that night, and everyone in the tribe, except for one raven-haired girl named Fawn, drowned.
Wow. So there's only one person that made it. Well, good for Fawn.
And then, the legend kind of goes on with what happens to Fawn, and it just continues. But the legend was passed down for years, and natives avoided the ravine, believing the grounds to be haunted and cursed. This is beyond the legend. In real life, the first white man to make his home in Shisha Hollow was a man named Robert Roy, who settled here in the 1840s.
Okay.
The local natives thought Roy was crazy for living in a place they wouldn't dare even set foot. A few years after Roy moved in, soldiers from Browns Valley came out to find him, hoping to collect strategic information on the frontier for the U.S. government. It took them several days to even find him in the wooded ravine, but when the soldiers left, they agreed with the natives that the man was just crazy to want to live in a place like that, because it's supposedly just horrifying when you visit. So in 1967, Shisha Hollow became a national natural landmark by the Natural Park Service. Later, the hollow was believed to be a place where one could spot a beast that resembled Bigfoot. Local sightings of the creature started to be recorded, while others believe there must just be some sort of bear on the loose in the area. When several people disappeared in the hollow in the 70s, it stoked a fire beneath the local belief in the legendary Bigfoot of Shisha Hollow. In a search party, many openly admitted their intention to search for the Bigfoot creature, believing it could be responsible for the disappearances. No evidence of the creature or a bear was ever found.
That was in the 60s?
That was in the 70s.
70s? Yeah, all right. I get it.
What do you mean?
Sounds right. That just sounds like they'd be doing that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, well. So despite the legend of the ancient curse and rumors of Bigfoot, there are some people brave enough to spend the night at Shisha Hollow. Many who have camped here report several peculiar experiences. There have been reports of hearing phantom voices and chanting, sounds of cries and war whoops, moaning and screaming, and some have even reported witnessing physical apparitions that appear to be Indian braves. Another common experience reported here is the faint sound of Indian drums along with the chanting, and of course, the classic cold spots and the feelings of being watched. Classic. Some believe the distant phantom chanting is that of the spirits of the natives summoning Thunderer. There have been a couple reports of people seeing campfires that seem to disappear as they walk closer to them. And some visitors report seeing strange glowing lights in the trees that is attributed to the eyes of Thunderer watching over the hollow.
Sounds risky.
There are those who also believe the spirit of Hand is haunting the mountainside, moaning with his eyes gouged out, which is a terrifying thought. There are also legends that Thunderer still lurks in these woods, waiting to be summoned once more so he can rise again. To add to the creep factor of the area, there's an eerie glowing swamp gas that can be seen at night. This is likely due to methane gas, which can sometimes appear to be glowing. Some believe that they have made out ghostly apparitions emerging from the eerie glowing gas.
It is.
Oh, go ahead.
It's creepy. It's just creepy when you get like, because they explain that stuff like methane. You know how there's like a glow and how they explain it. Doesn't matter how much somebody explains it. It's still always scary to me.
Oh yeah, I know. That's actually I said this later on in my notes, but it's what I find the most fascinating because there's people aren't making this up. That they're like, yeah, there's like glowing gas and there's like blood running in the rivers. It's
Yeah.
really it looks like that. There's a reason for it, but you can still see this when you go to visit, which to me is just awesome.
Yeah. Super sick.
Several visitors have mentioned an unsettling quiet and calm that rests uneasily over the place. Even in the day, hikers have noted that the park seems to be missing some of the typical sounds of chittering animals and birds chirping that you would expect to hear. One commenter even mentioned that there are few insects in the park that would otherwise be common in this area of South Dakota. One legend goes so far as to suggest that there are mounds of dirt where animals will not even dare to go. It's believed that these are the areas where Hans' victims had fallen. So there are a couple explanations for some of the things that are experienced here. First of all, one of the really creepy things people say they experience is the sound of moaning and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
There are plausible explanations. According to Chad Lewis and Terry Fisk, who wrote the South Dakota Road Guide to Haunted Places, moans, groans, and screams heard in the forest are rationalized as sounds of trapped gases escaping from the muddy bogs. So especially,
Yeah, right.
yes, during the winter, air can sometimes be trapped in the bog under the ice and snow. So as the snow melts and the ground thaws, air is gradually being released, which can sometimes make a sound that can be compared to when you blow air over the top of an uncapped bottle, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the methane gas that explains the phenomenon where the swamp gas appears to be glowing. You can also find phosphorus in the rotting tree stumps in the ravine, which will sometimes make them appear to glow green at night. So yeah, I like kind of trying to figure out like, okay, what is really happening? Like what's real and what can we not explain?
Totally.
But when you picture a wet, forested ravine with glowing green tree stumps and this eerie glowing mist and the sound of small waterfalls just echoing and hearing the moaning and faint screamings from the air escaping the bogs, it doesn't matter if you believe in the paranormal. That's a haunting, beautiful place to be.
Damn right.
It's no wonder why it's inspired so many legends. If the ancient legend isn't enough, there's also believed to be an ancient Indian burial ground on top of one of the hills at Sica Hollow.
There it is.
Another.
Can't have a story like this without one of those.
Oh, who did?
You can't have a story like this without an Indian burial ground.
No, it needs it. It needs it. Oh, and whether or not the ancient Indian burial ground does exist, because it's more so just suggested, there are certainly two cemeteries along the nearby trails. One is the Roy Cemetery, which is over 1,000 years old. That's where Robert Roy himself and his family members are buried. There's also the St. Benedict Cemetery, situated very near the multi-use trail system at the park. So if this whole legend isn't enough for you, there's actually people buried like around the site.
Yeah, totally.
If you're lucky enough to live in the area or are passing through, the park sounds like a gorgeous and fascinating place to explore. You can check out Sica Hollow with a $6 park pass per vehicle for the day. But if you're one of the brave visitors who wants to spend the night, a non-electrical campsite costs a mere $13 per night.
What?
Yeah. Hiking, camping, horseback riding, all enjoyed at the scenic park, which offers 15 miles of hiking and horse trails, and, of course, the Trail of Spirits. So it seems like the best time to visit, if you are going to go back and check it out, is during the fall, because all the colors of autumn are just ablaze through the trails.
Yeah, it is. I'm sure it's absolutely like breathtaking around that time too. It always is in the Midwest.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So you've never been to Shisha Hollow, but you said you've been to somewhere similar that's like this haunted place by where you used to skate?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean there was a couple. So like there was this place, I think it's called Buffalo Ridge, but that was rumored to be haunted. There was also this place called Gitchy. It was, what is it, Gitchy Manitou? Um, and it was, I want to say some kids were murdered there back in the
Oh.
day.
Oh.
Uh, and there was another place called Spook Road, like right outside of town, where it was either Gitchy or Spook Road where you would go. This was like the rumor that there were 6 roads on the way there and 7 on the way back.
Hmm.
And when we were kids, we always thought it was so cool. I'm sure there's an explanation for that, but we yeah, we never figured it out. We always just kind of let ourselves bathe in the lore of the fact that it might be haunted. That was always fun.
Yeah. Were you like before I were to tell you like what I was actually writing about, were you wondering about all these places? Like, well, maybe she'll look into this place or maybe she'll talk about this one.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I never know, I always just want everyone to have heard of all these places and think that it's cool, but nobody ever really gives a shit. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it was kind of cool thinking that somebody was looking into it.
Yeah, it's kind of it's that's why I like to find locations. Like when I do this show normally, I try to use local comedians because I love that personal element of someone being like, "Oh yeah, we used to go here when I was a kid," or like, we'd scare each other around campfires talking about this place or that place.
Yeah, we would it was more of yeah, more of I mean, there's not a ton to do. So, it was a lot of being like, yeah, let's drive around and let's go do this again. It was it was always fun. I've always liked being scared like that kind of like if it's not it's different than if you think like someone's going to come kill you.
But
If you're
yeah,
doing like a supernatural, just feels more fun and it doesn't feel as risky.
yeah, totally.
Because there's not going to be any real stakes. You're probably going to be just fine. So I always like that element to it.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I've never asked you this, I don't think. Do you believe in ghosts?
I've been thinking about it for quite some time. I think I do. Because I don't know. I struggle with like religion and things like that. And
Yeah.
the older I get, the more that I think that there's got to be something. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be something. Like there's just too much. It'd just be nuts if all this was completely random. Or maybe it is. Maybe we just are done when we die and there's nothing that happens and we're just balls of gas. But to me, it feels like there's something. And if I believe in that, then of course I got to believe in ghosts. So I think, yeah, I think I do.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't seem like you've had any experiences of your own that you've like drawn from.
I don't think so. I don't. I don't think there's ever anything that's really happened to me. My mom has a couple things where she says that, oh gosh, like right after my grandma died, my mom says that she saw like a wolf in the road like in the country of South Dakota,
Hmm.
which doesn't happen. But she said it was like she was like up the night before just asking for a sign or something, and then she was on the way to my grandma's house and saw that. She also used to work in a convent and said that she would see things all the time, like ghosts and things at the convent, which I've never really understood why there's got to be the correlation with ghosts and religious stuff. Why
Yeah.
can't you just see a ghost like at Plaid Pantry at 3 in the morning? But nobody ever seems to. It's always like, oh, I was at this gigantic Gothic cathedral and I saw a ghost performing a ritual, and you're like, all right. Or you could just see a ghost riding a bike down the bike trail sometime.
Well, I wonder though, like I've thought about this before that like what if we've seen ghosts, but they're in such ordinary instances like that that we just don't even like think about it. Like you
Very
see
possible.
someone walking by and you're just like, whatever.
Yeah. Why the fuck would you ever think it? I'm never just going to assume that's the case. But yeah, then you get into like the whole metaphysics thing. Like, well, how do I know anything's real? How do I know I'm not a ghost and this is all a dream and da da da. So it's a slippery slope.
It
But
really
yes,
is.
I've,
I know.
I've had
There's
that
like
thought.
times where I've felt like, okay, I need to just like step away from this for a minute. But
Well, yeah.
But yeah, that is an interesting thought. But yeah, it does seem like a lot of the stories are like there's a woman in white or this is an Indian
Totally.
burial ground.
Yep, like Poltergeist. I feel like we blame Poltergeist for starting that. That was the whole. They were on an Indian burial ground of Poltergeist, and now it's like one of the biggest tropes with ghost stories.
Well, and did you see that whole thing about all the like haunted or cursed movie sets that they did on Shudder? I don't know if you're.
I just saw a preview. Actually, I just saw that. Um, is it any good?
I mean, it's pretty good. It's like I think there's only like 6 episodes or something. And there's only one of them that I was like, that was haunted. And it was about, I think it was The Omen. That you hear all those stories and you're like, yeah, they were cursed for sure.
Well, I mean, there's so many, Amityville Horror. There's so many accounts of inexplicable things. That's what makes me wonder, because you can go crazy and things like that. But I mean, for the most part, there should be some way to explain what's happening, and sometimes there isn't. So it's
Yeah.
fun, and it's kind of fun just to let yourself be open to it, because if ghosts are real, then that means there's an afterlife. So it doesn't always have to be terrifying. It can be kind of comforting when you're like, okay, so something happens when we die. Maybe some people get screwed and they're stuck in purgatory and they're ghosts forever. That sucks, but I don't think I'll be one of those people. So if there are ghosts and things, then that means there's an afterlife. And so we haven't even begun to live the best part of our existence yet.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I've heard so many different types of ghost stories and they do range from being totally comforting like your mom's experience. Or I had experiences like that after my dad died, where it was like, yeah, I felt like my dad visited me, you know? But then there's other experiences that are not horrifying at all, but also not like emotionally centered either. But they're just like, oh, I saw a person that wasn't there and they didn't seem to notice me being there at all. There's all kinds of stuff. It's crazy. And I can see how religion kind of gets tied into it because I feel like that's the way like what we use to try to explain what's happening. But what I kind of like to do is to just hear and learn about different experiences and just take them for what they are and not try to like figure it out, you know? I'm
Yeah.
just fascinated to hear, what other people have experienced.
Yeah, there's always, I don't know, I'm always scared that something really weird's gonna happen, and then I won't, because I've never had anything happen. My dad talked about it a few times, that he was, you know, he was a pretty gnarly dude, but he
Yeah.
was in treatment a lot of times. He would go, he was in a few treatment facilities on reservations in South Dakota where they would have sweat lodges and things. So he had stories
Oh,
for
wow.
days about hallucinations, and he could never tell if he might have been seeing a ghost or hallucinating or whatever. But he he'd just talk about out of body experiences when he would just see himself, which is a whole nother thing to think about. I've never had anything like that happen, but
Me neither.
not like I don't believe it when people say it. It's like, I don't know, if somebody says they had a genuine experience or went through something, who am I to say that they're wrong or they're crazy? I have no idea. So
Right.
I try to keep an open mind with all of it, with religion, and because nobody can say either way definitively. That's kind of what the big question of life is. So I think it's more fun just to wonder and hear people out and enjoy the stories and think that they might be true, instead of being like, no, we die, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like that's yeah, there's either the people that like go full fledged ahead that are like, Yep, that's a spirit, that's like a this and that." And then there's other people constantly trying to poke holes. But you said your dad was in a sweat lodge in South Dakota? Like this
Yeah, a
was
few times.
like a cleansing, like healing experience?
Yeah, it was a native thing that they've been doing forever, as far as I know. But yeah, you pretty much just hallucinate. You take, I don't know, whatever drugs that you that help you hallucinate, ayahuasca or peyote, whatever. But they would also do it in treatment where they didn't have drugs, so they would just,
Yeah.
I think you just kind of starve yourself
Oof.
until you're like at the brink, and then it's a sweat lodge. That's what it is. Literally, you just kind of sit and get hot, and then you start to hallucinate, and it's supposed to be visions, and people are supposed to come to you and stuff. He did it a bunch of times, tried to get me to do it. I never did it. I
Oh
never
God.
wanted to.
Thank God.
Well,
Yeah, it sounds. I'm sure it's cleansing for a lot of people. It sounds horrifying to me.
would have been cool, but yeah, I just didn't want to meet the dudes he was doing it with, because it's not like we just had to go do it, him and I would have had to meet all his sketchy treatment friends, and I was like, nah, I'd rather not
Yeah.
go hallucinate with a bunch of your dudes you met in a treatment facility.
Yeah, that sounds.
That sounds interesting. I mean, I've heard very, very interesting things about people that have done sweat lodges and things, so I would be, maybe open to it eventually. It'd be, who knows, could be real fun.
Could be. I don't know. Well, anyway, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about this place in South Dakota. Maybe someday you'll get a chance to check it out. I would like to go check it out sometime, actually.
Hell yeah. I mean, the shit that I'm gonna do once we can do stuff again is gonna be off the chains.
Have you been thinking about it?
Oh God, yeah. As soon as it's okay for us to travel and go places, I'm gonna do all of it. All the stuff that I thought about maybe doing. Like, yes, I'm gonna go to Disney World tomorrow, the day that they let me start. So
I was just gonna ask what was on that list, and the top of it is Disney World.
Disney World's up there. Well, I was supposed to go to Florida a week before all this started. I was supposed to go to Florida. I ended up cancel, and so I've just been. We were talking. My friend Tori and I were talking about going to Disney World, because he was supposed to go to Disneyland, and we were like, "Oh, fuck it, let's just go to Disney World," since neither one of us has been there, and take a little trip. So that's something I'm gonna do real quick after I can do this, or after we can travel. Get married is hopefully another thing that we'll still be able to do.
That's
we were
oh
just
my
talking
God.
about it today. We got like a week left before we have to figure out if we have to postpone or not. Hopefully we can still do it. So
oh my God. Waiting. Yeah, I forgot that you guys are probably in the process of planning that. How's that going?
Yeah, it was going great until a couple months ago, but whatever. If we have to postpone, we have to postpone. It's not a big deal. But
totally. We
are in the process of figuring that out.
Yeah. Or I know that some people have been doing like Zoom weddings.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. My cousin told me like yesterday that she went to a Zoom wedding, and she was like, what a bummer.
Yeah, I would. I don't know the reason to rush into it and do a Zoom wedding. Not knocking it if you do it, but I would rather just wait and do a real one, because the whole point of a wedding, instead of going to the courthouse, the whole point is to get everyone together physically and celebrate. And it's like weddings and funerals are like the one remaining thing that grown-ups have to go to.
Yeah.
So like if I invite all my friends, they have to come.
Well, that's been the other thing too, is the funerals. People haven't been able to have a funeral during this time, which is just devastating.
Yeah, it would suck. I mean, all that stuff. Kids aren't graduating. I mean, they're graduating, but they can't do the ceremony. All this stuff would just be such a bummer.
Total bummer. Well, yeah. I mean, now you guys have extra time to plan.
Which we've been doing. Planning, hiking, gardening, all the stuff.
Good. Oh, well, that sounds like a good, way to spend your time.
It ain't bad.
All right, Sean. Well, thanks again for talking to me. I hope you have a great rest of your day and rest of your quarantine.
Yeah, back at you. I'll be in touch, and stay safe, wear a mask, and go on walks, have fun, and enjoy this while we can, because this will be something that we all talk about years down the road. So that's what I've been doing, like trying to be mindful of the fact that if for nothing else, this is something that hopefully will never happen again, and we're living right through it. So it's kind of historical.
Absolutely it is. And there's going to be times that we're back in the hustle and bustle of life that we're like, don't you just wish? Remember when we just like couldn't leave? Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, man. Well, take care of yourself. I will talk to you later.
All right, later.
All right, bye. I hope you had fun learning about the legend of Shisha Hollow with Sean and I. If you haven't already, be sure to listen to Sean on the wildly popular podcast, All Fantasy Everything, wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on social media. You can find us on Instagram with the handle Lit Dark Podcast. That's at LITDARK Podcast. You can also find us on Facebook and YouTube. Drop us a comment. Tell us hi. We love it when we hear from you. Special thanks for this episode goes to my producer, Randall Lawrence in Cranival Studios, my graphic designer, Jonathan Cooper in Heck Yeah Studios, Sean Jordan for being my very first guest in lockdown, and of course, all of you for listening. I'll see you next time right here on Laughing in the Dark in Lockdown.
Sources used for Episode 5 of Laughing in the Dark include Thrillist, legendsofamerica.com, leifericksonwriting.com, Wikipedia, Travel South Dakota, Mystical Blaze blog, geocaching.com, and the Aberdeen Magazine.
Laughing in the Dark is brought to you in part by Heck Yeah Studio. Heck Yeah Studio is a creative effort working with people to create meaningful things. At Heck Yeah Studio, they work with clients to turn their ideas or existing brands into real or better versions. Heck Yeah Studio is the place to go for custom illustration for a full range of branding services, like killer logos, great colors and typography, and fun illustrations for pins, signs, prints, shirts, vehicles, posters, or anything you can imagine. At Heck Yeah Studio, they work with love. Their dream client is someone who is passionate about what they do. At Laughing in the Dark, Heck Yeah Studio has designed our logo, all of our merch, and any posters or stickers that we have. I am so proud and lucky to work with such an awesome company, and I could not recommend them higher.